Markets to Watch, sponsored by Pagetrader.com, starts now.
You're listening to Vince Rowe here on CEO Money, sitting in for Michael Yorba. And some of you may be a little confused if you tuned in at the 42nd hour or minute of this hour thinking that David was going to be on. He's not. We are blessed with much more time today than we normally get with him, and he's joining us for a full segment. So, David, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
So, Pagetrader, we've been talking about in the few days that I've been here, and a couple of sidecar days I was co-hosting with Michael, is that we've been talking a little bit about Pagetrader and your space and some of the things that we don't necessarily get into in the shorter segments. But can you talk a little bit about some of the algorithms, some of the indicators, some of the systems and things that are your value proposition that you bring to the customers and the people that are listening to the show?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. Well, first, a couple things. When we started Pagetrader almost 20 years ago, our value proposition was that the markets are a lot less random than most people believe, and that there are ways to approach the market to do better in the market, to have greater success in the markets. We're talking about crude oil, gold, S&P 500, the bonds, and so on. Mm-hmm. There's better ways to get in and get out of the markets successfully than simply guessing or using a few indicators. And so what I brought to the table, I believe, was I have an unusual, for me, I think it's normal, but I can see it's unusual. I have an unusual approach that when I look at markets, I see something a little different than others do, perhaps. And I've been able to work with that and develop some very new principles with regard to market movement. And over the years, we developed that to a very high level where we now have customers all over the world that utilize professionals, home traders, day traders, longer-term traders, investors, that use our services now to know with a much higher degree of certainty that a very specific event, price movement, is going to happen in their given market. Let me give you an example.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask a little bit about timing too, if you would put a stratified layers of timing. I mean, are these appropriate for options? Are they stocks? Are they investors? So let's talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. And just briefly, a great example would be on Monday of this week and yesterday, we forecast that if the S&P 500, the 500 index, if it closed the day yesterday below 2727, then the S&P would have a mini crash down to 2704 into Wednesday the 23rd. That's today. Mm-hmm. Yesterday, the S&P closed below 2727. It closed at 2725.5. And today, the market had a mini crash down to 2704.50. That's a perfect example of our work. It's a 20-plus point decline that was forecast in advance, along with the date that that specific price would be reached. Mm. And so that's a great example. People can put that to work. They could trade down to that specific number and be done with it and have a great trade. We do that in a number of different markets. We also...
go ahead. Please. No. I was going to say, how are you affected by aftermarket actions, meaning news and other things that are out of your control?
Interestingly, the forecast for the decline to 2704 was itself attributed to the news that Donald Trump was talking trade talk with China.
Perfect.
And so on.
Yep, good. So that's a variable in the algorithm there that you add. So you know it's coming. Or you surmise it's something there that could be the driving factor there. And news
that is correct.
Could be
and
correct.
many times, Vince, the news comes in to be the cause of that larger movement, as opposed to the news throwing a forecast off.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So it sounds strange, but remember that the market is like an antenna. The market is like an antenna It picks up signals from all over the world, if you will, and that gets put into the movements of the market. And is there meaning in those movements? Can you get something out of the movements that the antenna picked up? And we know that you can, because we do it every day.
For 20 years.
And I do want to say, yeah, exactly.
Still here.
Say that we're still here.
Yeah.
I do want to say that our past performance, as good as it may have been, it is no indication of future performance, and that people should read our full trading disclaimer at pagetrader.com before getting involved. But we're very excited about all of this. And then to the timing of the market, this is usable certainly for options people. If you go take a look at our testimonials page, there's many, many people that use these larger forecasts in a wide variety of markets and use them with options, rather than buying a stock individually or buying the futures market, like buying a futures contract. They'll, in many cases, buy or sell options to be in a larger move. So one thing I also have done is I've invited some of the really acclaimed people, like the man that wrote the Random Walk Down Wall Street book, to come check out our work, because he would be, that's Burton McHale. I think he would be very fascinated to see what is possible, because he wrote a book that says the markets are completely random. And what we're doing in the markets would be completely impossible in a completely random market. We'd love for him to come take a look at our work. We don't know that he will or he won't, but we certainly playfully invite him from time to time on our Twitter feed when we forecast exact events that do play out in the future, which in a random market would be akin to picking the lottery numbers time after time after time.
Gotcha. All right, David, we got 1 minute here as we close out the show. Is it talk about some of the next things that we can look for, next things that you're looking at?
Absolutely. We're really excited about the S&P closing. If we close back above 2727 today, that's a very strong position for the S&P 500 and the Dow. We're up at 2731. This has been a remarkable recovery, and that will put the market in a very strong position over the next week or so. So we're excited about that, and that means, that would mean higher prices. We're also excited about gold as well right now, as a market that we're preparing to do something on the long side with. We're not quite there yet. But I invite your listeners to come check out what we are doing day in and day out at pagetrader.com. They can take a free week trial and check out everything, no charge, and no one will bother them. They can just watch and see what we're doing.
Thanks, David. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thank you for having me on. It's a great pleasure.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same channel.